Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. And today I'm going to be making some more herb vinegar, and it's going to be peppermint, pansy, and dandelion. And so we'll get to that in a little bit. And first thing I'm going to do though is I'm going to strain off my apple sage vinegar. And I just tasted it and it's very, very tart. And when I first took this cover off, the top of it looked like a solid cover. You see that light color stuff on top? That is the cam yeast. That is not mold, it's not mildew, it's cam yeast. And as I've said in a previous video, I believe some of that, if you feel it, it has a very kind of waxy feel to it. I believe some of that is the bloom coming off the fruit because I have apples in here. And so you'll notice it's kind of got a greasy feel to it. And the bloom is the waxy protective layer on the outside of your fruits. So that's why I believe that's what it is. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just pour it through my mesh strainer here. Because I don't care if some of that gets in there. That's good. All I'm doing is straining out all the big pieces. So the apples, oh, it smells really good. And the sage. And then what I'll do with this is I'll simply throw it out in the compost. The chickens will eat the apples. They love the apples. And then you'll see, let me go throw this out to my chickens. The chickens just love the fruit from the whatever vinegars I've made. They love it. And it's so good for them too. So they're getting that vinegar and they're getting the fiber and stuff from the fruit itself. Okay, so now I do have my pH strips, and I did test my citrus vinegar, my apple citrus vinegar that I've been kind of doing a little bit of experimenting with, extending the life of the actual fermentation process to make it vinegar. And it took about 6 weeks, 2 months, I can't remember exactly which, it was at least 6 weeks. But what I did was I was adding more sugar to the vinegar as I went along to see if I could get a higher acidity, and when I did the test, it was actually brighter than the 4.5 pH, which means it's got at least an acidity of 5, which is great, because the lower your pH is, the higher your acidity is. And so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to test this vinegar here and see how it turned out. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to take your test strip, your pH strip, and you're going to just swirl it around in your vinegar. You're going to compare it to the colors on here to find out just how strong it is. And so if you're over here, the closer you get to these colors here, the higher the pH is. And obviously it's not very acidic then. The closer it is to here, this is where you want it, right here, or even lower. And as you can see, that's even brighter than that. And that means this could be good for pickling as well. And also very a nice strong vinegar for cleaning with and everything. So I'm very happy with the process. I did something similar and also using the stir method with all these. And I'm kind of thinking about sticking with that for a while, doing the stir method. It depends on how much time and patience I have to keep stirring it once I have like anywhere from 8 to 10 jars of vinegar going. Okay, so now I'm just going to fill up my bottle here. This should be more than enough to fill up this bottle, and this will be a good hair wash vinegar right here, or anything else vinegar. I can use it for cooking with. The rest of it I'll use, and it's very, very strong. It has a wonderful smell, yet still I can tell it's a very strong vinegar. And so I'll be filling up some spray bottles for cleaning with this. So I'll probably most likely be using this and then the other one with the citrus in it for cleaning with, just because it's so strong, but also I can use it for pickling. And it does have it has a nice flavor to it too. I don't really know how to describe it. It's not like you would think for an apple sage vinegar, but it is really good. So then I'll probably put the rest of this in my cleaning spray bottle. Okay, now for starting a fresh batch of vinegar, what I have here is a big bunch of peppermint and mojito mint plus a few pansies and dandelions. All of these I've sprayed down with my previously made homemade vinegar, and that is to help just kind of clean them a little bit, kill any nasties that could be on there that I don't want, and then I rinse them off. That's the most I do for cleaning my herbs, because that's just to kind of ensure I'm not getting dog pee and bugs and you know, loose dirt and stuff. The dirt isn't bad for you. It's just, you know, it's just preferable to stay away from some of it. So I grabbed a whole bunch of mint. I'm not sure how much I'm going to put in here, and it's okay because I'm going to start another batch of water kefir with my mint, since I'm really liking the mint water kefirs. Anytime you're doing an herbal or floral type vinegar, go ahead and fill your jar about 3/4 of the way full. 1/2 to 3/4 of the way, but keep in mind too that this is not fruit, and so you're going to need to add sugar to it. You know, it's not like if you have like a jar just packed full of really high sugar type fruits, such as raisins. You can put quite a few raisins in here and not need to add sugar. Then yeah, you don't need the sugar. But when you're using something like this, you need sugar. You have to have sugar to get the ferment. And a lot of people kind of get concerned. It's like, well, how can I make vinegar without sugar? Well, no, you really can't, as far as I know, because the bacteria and the yeasts, they feed on the sugars, and that's what ferments, and that's where you get your different types of ferments, whether it be a water kefir or a kombucha or anything else. And so they have to be fed. Once they feed, they turn the sugar into something else that is now a more healthy thing for your body. So don't be afraid of the sugar. So to this, you want to have at least 1/4 cup. So what I initially did with the one batch was I put in 1/4 cup of sugar to start with, and then once it got good and bubbly, I kind of added like maybe a tablespoon or 2 of sugar every day for several days. Now what I'm going to try is going 1/4 cup and then adding my water and then letting it bubble, and once it's maybe looks like it's calming down a little bit, I'm going to put another 1/4 cup of sugar in there, and then after that, that'll be all the sugar I'll put in. So it's probably going to take 5 to 6 weeks before this is ready. Because what I've been doing is once, you know, when I use the stir method like I got going on over here with this vinegar, this is the dandelion citrus, what I do is I wait until, I may add a little bit of sugar for a few days, but then I wait until it stops bubbling. Once it stops bubbling, then I set it up on top of my refrigerator and then let it sit for 2 more weeks after that, even if it took 3 or 4 weeks to stop bubbling, because this one here has been taking quite a while. And I don't think I added any more sugar to that one. And I think that one's going to be good and acidic. But I would say if you're using herbs alone and no fruit, you're going to need eventually to add at least a whole 1/2 cup of sugar to it, not just 1/4 cup. So now let me get my filtered rainwater and put this in here. Okay, and then what I recommend is taking a long wooden spoon or chopstick and stirring this up. I like chopsticks because they're long, and I always try to use something wooden whenever I'm dealing with anything that's going to ferment. And that's just to get the sugar mixed in there and let it start dissolving. And then when I go in a few days, you know, between a few days and a week, I'll be adding more sugar to this, and then I'll just stir it in real good. And look how pretty that looks with the colors. It looks pretty nice. Make sure I get a picture of that. Okay, and so then you're just going to cover it with a cloth. Okay, you want something that can breathe. Don't use anything that's got an airlock. Like somebody asked me if they could use those pickling tops. Well, the difference with the pickling top is it's going to let the gases out, but it's not going to let any oxygen in. And for vinegar, you need the oxygen to be able to get in there. Vinegar needs to be highly oxygenated in order for it to become vinegar. So let me get a cover, one of my cloths, and put it over this. I always like to use just a nice cotton flannel, anything that's going to breathe really well. The purpose of the cover is to keep bugs and dust from getting in there. And then I'll just set it here on the counter where I can see it. Again, eventually I'm gonna, if I get a whole bunch going, I'm gonna want to stop putting it here because then my counter space starts getting taken up, and yeah. So anyway, I'll just keep an eye on it, stir it for the first couple of weeks, and then add some sugar, some more sugar to it in a few days, and then after probably about 2 weeks is when I'll need to put it. I'll be able to get it up out of the way. This one's getting close to being able to put up on the refrigerator, and then I'll let it sit for 2 more weeks after that. So here's the deal. You can have a decent vinegar in 1 month with very little hassle by simply putting a bunch of fruit or even fruit scraps into some filtered rainwater or some other anything but city tap water that's got a bunch of chlorine and fluoride in it. You want to avoid those things, especially chlorine is going to can very likely kill your ferment, and it'll prevent you from getting a good vinegar. This is why I always say get away from that. If you have good well water, or filter your city tap water, at least, if nothing else. This is what I used to do before we started collecting and filtering our own rainwater, was I would keep several of these jugs full of water, city water, with just a cloth cover over it, no cork, no lid, and give it a couple of days for it to dechlorinate, because chlorine will evaporate up out of the water. So it'd actually be better to have it in a wider open container. Like if you have a 1 gallon glass jar, that would be better than a jug. And I have lots of jars I could do that with now. At that time, this was years ago, all I had were the jugs. But that's one way to do it. Just to be on the safe side, 24 hours might be enough. I always like to give it 3 days just to be on the safe side, and then I use that for my wine making, for anything I was going to ferment, and that's one thing that you can do. And then of course you just want to avoid fluoride, because fluoride is not good for you. It is, despite what they try to sell, how they try to sell it to you, it is a toxic waste, and that's usually what they're putting into your city water. It's a waste product. If you ever get your water report and you're on city water like we are, read it. It will say it is a waste product. But they try to veer away from it, telling you it's toxic, and try to convince you it's good for your teeth when really it's not. It's not. It actually makes your bones brittle, and if it's going to make your bones brittle, your teeth are bones too. So keep that in mind. Okay, so there's how we get the vinegar started. There's some finished vinegar. I'm going to show you a close-up of it again. And ready to use in whatever I want to use it. Now, last thing I want to cover is a few questions I get regularly. I do cover these in several videos, but it's really hard. I have so many vinegar videos out there that I know it's hard to... I can't even remember which ones I answer all these questions in, so I figure I'll just answer them again in several videos. I don't mind doing that one bit. And how do I use all the different vinegars? Well, really, I use most of them the same way, but typically my real nice flavored ones, like my raisin vinegar, my peach vinegar, pineapple vinegar, any of the real nice fruit vinegars that have a really great flavor, but is also mild enough to mix with anything I want to eat, I'm going to use it in sautés. I'm going to use it for marinating meats, and also to add to my breads. I always put a little bit of vinegar in every type of bread that I make, whether it be pancakes, biscuits, yeast breads, you name it, tortillas. I put in at least a tablespoon, maybe 2 or 3 even, depends on how big the batch is too, and exactly what it is I'm making, because it's going to help add a little bit of nutrition, as well as help your rise and help your breads to last longer. So I don't worry that much about biscuits, because I only make a couple at a time for Mr. Rain for breakfast, and I don't eat breakfast. So that I still put the vinegar in for health reasons, and it just makes a nicer biscuit. But for, like, let's say you're making a loaf of bread and you want it to last a couple days, put a little vinegar in there. It's going to help preserve the bread a little bit longer, keep it from drying out, keep it from spoiling, you know, molding. And so that's just another thing you can use it for. And as I said before, I use it for cleaning a lot. I always have spray bottles full of my, you know, just your regular cheap spray bottle you can buy at the store, full of my homemade vinegar, and I use that to clean just about anything. I use it to clean my countertops, I use it to clean my windows, I use it to clean my floor. I've even used the homemade vinegar in laundry, and you know, just by itself, and it works really good and leaves a nice scent behind. I do have my own laundry powder that I make, and I have a video to that I'll go ahead and link to up here, but I can use my homemade vinegar as well, and it's even cheaper yet. I just tend to go through a lot of vinegar. I use it to wash my hair with, so my floral and herbal vinegars I tend to use most for my hair, and also for cleaning with. And whereas the fruit ones are more reserved for food related stuff, but they can all cross over too, as long as the flavor isn't too strong. Like the lavender, rose, and pansy vinegar I tend to like to make. It does have a very strong, because the lavender has a very strong floral scent and flavor to it that I would prefer not to use it in cooking unless you like that flavor. I don't care for the flavor of lavender. I like the smell of it, but not the flavor, so I'm not going to use that for cooking. What else do I use vinegar for? I've also found I said it cleans glass. It even is one of the best cleaners I found for cleaning the glass, the inside glass on my wood stove. I just spray it on there, let it sit for a couple of minutes, and then I take a paint scraper and it just comes right off, and then I wipe the rest of it down. And I know there's some more things that I'm leaving out. Oh yes, and I also like to use especially the mint vinegar. So this one that I started here is probably going to be one I'll do this with for making herbal extracts for medicinal purposes, or health purposes I should say. You're going to get a more medicinal tincture using a high proof alcohol, but I have found vinegar based extracts to work really well, you know, like with the feverfew catnip for helping with aches and pains. And so taking that, and then I don't have to take the alcohol. It's cheaper by far because I'm not having to go out and buy some expensive 80 proof alcohol. I can just use my own homemade vinegar that was free to make. And the mint ones are really good for that. Anything you've got to take. Or even just my multivitamin mineral extract that I make using my my mixed greens blend and whatever other herbs and spices I want to throw in there, and then use the peppermint, and then I can take a shot of that in the morning, and you're getting just a little more boost of your vitamins and minerals. And that vinegar as well is so good for the digestion. So I have a video on how I make that, and I'll go ahead and post the link to that right up here. And I'll probably do another one down the road of making a multi-mineral, multi-vitamin extract using your own homegrown greens and herbs and your own homemade vinegar. Alright, so if you have any more questions that I likely forgot to answer, go ahead and put them below, and I will try to make sure I write them down and answer them in future videos, because I will be doing lots more vinegar, because I'm getting into the time of the year where this is where I really start pumping out the vinegar making. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video and that you learned something new. Thanks for watching, take care, and God bless.